Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining me for a block printing Christmas project video. I'm Tess from the Arty Crafty Place and I'm going to show you today how to print your own festive table runner and matching napkins. Now this is a project that I have done many times. Each year I always print myself a festive table runner and it's something that brings a lot of joy to the Christmas table. So I'm going to show you how you can print your own. Now this is a new kit we've launched for 2021, so it's a new design and it's available in a kit, or you can buy all the items individually if you already have some of them at home. And we're printing onto our really lovely cotton linen table runners. So this is a really gorgeous fabric to print. It's very hard wearing. You don't need to worry if anyone spills anything on it on Christmas Day. It's going to go through the wash absolutely fine. So this is a really lovely item to print and that you can keep and use year on year. So for this project, we're going to be using 4 paints. We're going to be using olive green, red, leafy green and khaki green fabric paint. So those are the 4 paints I'm going to be using for this project. So not too many. And then I'm also going to be using a set of printing blocks. Now this is our new leaf and holly set of printing blocks. So you can buy them in a set, or if you want to buy them individually, we're going to be using the small twisted leaf stem, a new mini holly, the little berry block, a small solid holly leaf and our pretty fern leaf. So just 5 blocks that are going to make up this really gorgeous pattern. So first of all, I'm going to show you where to start, and I'm going to talk you step by step how to print the table runner so that you know how to do it yourself at home. But you can personalise it to match what you would like. So just make sure you've practiced the design on some scrap fabric or paper, and then you can tweak any parts of it you wish to. So first of all, we're going to start with this really lovely leafy wreath in the middle. Now I've done one in the very centre of my table runner, just as kind of a centrepiece. But when I was printing this, I did think you could do maybe 3 wreaths across the whole table runner. So see how you feel. But I decided to stick with 1 in the middle. So I'm going to get my table runner on my printing mat and we'll show you where to start. So to get started, you want to start in the very centre of your table runner. So what I've done is folded mine in half and I've ironed a crease line. And again in the centre, which hopefully you can see on camera. And that's where I'm going to do my starting point. So that's really important to make sure you're getting the very centre of your table runner. You'll be very disappointed if you print the whole thing and realise you're off centre. So do make sure you pause for a minute and find the centre. And then you're going to need a circle template. So mine is 20 centimetres and this goes really well in the centre of my table runner and gives me room for a border down each side. So you want to place your circle template in the centre, and you can always secure this down if you need to, but hopefully it should stay in place. And we're first going to start with our small twisted leaf stem, and we're going to print this evenly all the way around the circle template. So I'm going to do this in khaki. You want to start with your lightest colour, as this is going to help the layers shine through. If you start with your darkest colour first, it's really hard to then put other colours on top of it. So you always start with your lightest colour first. So I'm going to print on all 4 sides to start with. So I've done 4 prints and now I've got space to do another print in the middle of the previous 2 prints. So you don't want to print them touching, you want to have space in between each print, and that's where we're going to add the other leaves. This is a really great block to start with. As it's twisted, it works around the circle really nicely, so it gives you a lovely starting point for our wreath design. So there we go, that's the first stage complete. So we've got our twisted leaf vine printed in a circular pattern around my template. Next up, we're going to use our pretty fern leaf. Now this design is really good for adding kind of texture and helping your design flow outwards. So we don't want to be printing this directly around the circle, we want the leaves to kind of spread outwards. So you'll see when I'm printing it, I'm making sure that the block is moving outwards towards the edge of my table runner. And for this design, I'm going to print it all the way around in leafy green. And this is a really good design to use for creating a wreath, as it flows outwards really well and it's got lovely detail. It really adds some kind of texture and depth to your wreath design, because you don't want to be printing them all on top of each other going the same way. Otherwise your wreath will stay quite circular, and really you want it to flow outwards. So that's the pretty leaf printed all over. So first of all, we've done our twisted leaf vine in khaki and our pretty fern leaf in leafy green. And next up, we're going to do our holly design. So we're going to print this now in a darker olive green, and this is going to start adding more layers to our wreath design. So you don't want to print these all facing the same way. You want to print them in different places all over your wreath and going in different directions. And if we lift the template off, you can see that's looking really great. So we've got 3 designs on there so far, and I'm next going to go in with the mini holly leaf, and I'm just going to print this all over inside as well. So I might remove my template and just start building up the pattern more. You can always add more later if you want to. So just start off adding a few and then keep looking at how it feels to you. So if you notice that you miss any little bits, you can always go back and add some more later. And then next up, I'm going to add the little berry, and I'm going to do some red berries all over, and that really adds that festive element to your design, and it really gives it a pop of colour. Now with these little berry blocks, you can always print over them twice, and that will give you a really good strong colour. So I might do single berries all over, and then maybe a couple of clusters of 3 or 2. And you can absolutely have a go at this table runner design, even if you don't have all the blocks I'm using. If you've got different leaf blocks at home, definitely have a go with that. Just use the same colours that I've used, and it will give it that really Christmassy feel. And you might just want to get yourself a little single holly leaf, as those are really useful. Even if you didn't have this little berry block, you could always use the end of a paintbrush to add the little red dots. But it is a very useful block to have in your collection. Might do a few berries coming outwards. That really adds to the design. There we go. So I'm really happy with that. If I need to add any more later, I can, but I'm going to let this dry for a couple of minutes before I move and start the border. And I'll show you how I print the border just using the same blocks that we've used for the leafy wreath. But make sure you leave it a couple of minutes to dry so that when you move it, it doesn't smudge. Once you finish your leafy wreath, we can now start on the border. Make sure you don't move your table runner until it's completely dry to avoid smudging. Now with your border design, you don't need to masking tape the edge if you don't want to, as you're going to be moving it so frequently, but do take your time with this section. Again, you don't want to have any smudges. So to start this, I'm going to just use a couple of the blocks. I'm going to use my pretty fern leaf, the holly designs and the little berry. For the border, I'm not going to use the twisted leaf stem. And I'm going to do these in the same colours that I did the wreath in the middle of my table runner with. And you're just going to build up a very pretty border. So you can kind of make the border as decorative or as simple as you want. I just use the blocks just around the edge, keeping quite straight and not fraying out too much. And what I'm going to do here is keep twisting and turning my pretty fern leaf. So printing them in the opposite direction. And that gives it a really nice feeling. and it keeps the prints looking really different. So by twisting it each time I print it, you get this different effect. It really easily goes around the corner as well. It feels very neat, and it's a very simple kind of classic border. So what I would suggest doing is printing all the pretty fern leaves first, and then you can go in with the holly leaves and start adding them. And it's better if you print one block multiple times and then pick up the next block and use that one. It's just a much kind of more efficient way of doing it rather than changing the colour and the block each time. So I'm printing the holly leaf in the gaps in between the pretty fern leaf. And then I'm going to fill in any more gaps with my mini holly leaf. And I'm staying quite close to the edge. I want to keep just a very simple border and not make it too busy and going outwards. I want to have quite a nice plain middle. And the holly leaf, they print really well over the top of the pretty fern leaf. Because you're printing in a darker colour, you can add some layers. And then to add that festive feel to it, I'm going to add a few berries. And you can see how quickly that border comes together really nicely, and I've just done it simply around the edge. And you can add as many or as few berries as you'd like. And you don't necessarily need to use red if you're not really a big fan of red at Christmas. You could decide to use gold or silver instead. It's totally up to you. But I would say that the different greens work really well together. So I'm going to carry on printing this border all around the edge of the table runner, taking my time. Once you've printed a section and you move the table runner to print the next piece of plain fabric, just make sure you're not smudging any wet prints. So I'll print all the way around and I'll show you where I get to. And here is my finished table runner. I'm thrilled with how it's turned out. It's going to look stunning on my table this Christmas, and it really adds some joy to the day. To go with my Christmas table runner, I also did a set of matching napkins. Now, I didn't want to overpower these with the wreath design, so I decided just to print them with a simple border. And that means that when I fold them on the table, they're going to look stunning and you can see the design really clearly. And I decided to print our linen napkins. As the table runner is such a high quality of fabric, these are going to work much better than our cotton napkins. When I was printing this table runner, I had intended to leave the middle plain, but when I spread it out once I'd finished printing it, I realised that it did look a little bit bare, so I went back in with the small holly and berry, and I've added a bit more detail, and that's really brought the runner to life a bit more. So that's definitely something you can do. So do bear in mind when you're printing a large item like this, don't go overboard. You can always go back in and add more later. Our table runners are one of the most popular items to print at the moment, so I hope you'll have a go and enjoy printing one yourself. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.